This is Jason and Derek for Behind the Bar. In a really stunning development, the Southern District of New York, a judge in the Southern District of New York, has dismissed Drake's lawsuit against UMG Records. Drake had sued them, alleging that they were behind the release of Kendrick Lamar's diss track, in which he labeled Drake a certified pedophile and says he likes him young. Drake had sued UMG, had chosen, I think, for political or social reasons, not to sue Kendrick by name. But in fact, he's suing UMG for the lyrics in the song. Kendrick is inextricably, therefore, linked to it.
He was also rubbing UMG's nose in it. Kendrick and Drake are both UMG artists.
That's right.
So he was saying, you got in bed with one of your artists and defamed me to puff this song up.
So he was alleging that Kendrick's lyrics calling him a certified pedophile, saying he likes him young, were defamatory. It caused him great reputational harm, and he wanted hundreds of millions of dollars in damages. A judge today has dismissed this outright. I'm going to let you, Derek, talk about the grounds on which the judge did it. But I want you to know that Derek and I have talked about this. I disagree fundamentally with the judge's ruling, and I think you agree with this ruling.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a heated debate here, which is when Behind the Bar is at its best. But let's at least get the ruling out. This is over those lyrics. The court concluded that the allegedly defamatory statements in Not Like Us are non-actionable opinion. In English, what that means is you can't sue over these statements because they are just the opinions of Kendrick, and they are not factual statements susceptible of being disproven. At a baseline level, let's tell you, like, a factual statement, if I were to say to Jason, you slept with Mary, my wife, that would be something that Jason can say, no, I didn't. You've hurt my reputation, although I'm not sure how sleeping with my wife would hurt your reputation. It'd probably burnish it. But anyway, you could disprove that. You could say, I've never met her. There's no evidence of that.
That's a statement of fact, not one of opinion. That's the distinction we're trying to draw here.
That's right. And if I said, so that would be potentially defamatory. Just at a basic level, it's a fact that you could disprove with evidence. If I said, Jason, you're a slut.
Right.
And I just think you're loose. That's an opinion. Because, sorry to look at you in your eyes as I say that. The reason that's an opinion is because my definition of what that means is loose. It could be that he sleeps with one woman, his wife, and I think he slept with her out of wedlock or something. Like, that is not something. It could hurt your reputation having that label, but it's not disprovable.
One definition of a slut is very different from another. It's not.
It's an opinion.
But it's fundamental to the law of defamation everywhere around the country that a statement of opinion
is not actionable.
Not actionable. You may not sue for that. A statement of fact you may sue for. So that is an absolute clear dividing line. So here, the judge found that Kendrick's comments fell on the opinion side of the ledger and could not therefore be the basis of a lawsuit.
But let's roll up our sleeves and get into the details, because we know what his statements are. Everyone has heard the song. It's a cultural sensation. The judge is talking about how big the song got. The lines are, heard you like him young. That's one of the lines. And you're a certified pedophile, right?
And you can read those things together. You can.
Sure.
You don't have to say, well, there's lots of words between them. You can read them together. In my opinion, you can say, therefore, he is labeling him as a matter of fact, and not as opinion, a pedophile. The judge disagreed.
Right. So how do we distinguish between fact and opinion? We know for defamation, you need to have a factual statement. We're putting aside that it needs to do reputational harm. I think Drake can prove it did reputational harm. So they're getting into the previous question to even get to the harm analysis. Here's how we distinguish between fact and opinion under the law. One, was the specific language and issue have a precise meaning which is readily understood? I think you could quibble with this. Is a pedophile, is your one man's pedophile, another man's pedophile, just liking someone? Does it mean sleeping with them? The
term pedophile is used in the modern vernacular to mean you've actually had carnal relations with a child.
It's certainly what it means to the average listener is that you both like young women or young people and probably have engaged in
the
it.
translation of the original Greek, right? A pedophile would be somebody who likes children, who loves children, but doesn't necessarily act on it, which is not illegal. That's right. As gross as it might be, it is not illegal to have feelings that you don't act upon. But the common understanding, the way the public understands the term pedophile, is someone who actually acts on it.
That's right. So that's the first level analysis. And the judge doesn't really quibble with that being something that could be a fact and not an opinion. Number two, whether the statement is capable of being proven true or false. I think there's a lot of action here. How do you disprove that I called Jason loosey-goosey? I don't know how you disprove that with a pedophile. Like you're saying, the definition is that you've actually had carnal relations. But that's not really what a pedophile is. A pedophile could just be someone who likes people young. Even in his lyric, he's saying, Drake, I heard you like them young. But the certified pedophile, to your point, levels it up to in the average listener's mind that you have acted on this in some sort of verifiable way.
So really important that when deciding defamation cases, what the judge will do is look at a common understanding based on the average person. Would an average person believe that Kendrick was stating Drake actually acts upon sleeping with young people?
Yes. Now, I think you could quibble with these first two factors of distinguishing fact and opinion. The judge does not. The judge says, here's where the action is. It's in the third prong of this analysis. And that prong says whether either the full context of the communication in which the statement appears or the broader social context surrounding circumstances are such as to signal a reader or listener that what is being read or heard is likely to be an opinion, not a fact. This is where all the action is, because the judge is not willing. Judge Jeanette Vargas, she's a very sort of skilled jurist from the Southern District of New York. She really thought hard about this. She said, I don't want to debate whether it's reducible and whether pedophile is an opinion in of itself. I want to talk about how this came out. And it came out in a diss track that was a cultural sensation. And so the judge says, let's focus on this analysis, and really digs in on the forum. The forum being, it's a diss track. It is not a news report. She says, in her opinion, the average listener is more likely to understand statements made on a news program or in a journalistic piece, if you're reading an article, to be factual. But statements made in the opinion page of a newspaper or an internet comment page are generally perceived as opinion. She says we're closer to that world. We're closer to the world of opinion when you're in a diss track. And she goes.
But I understand the point there.
When you listen to Kendrick, you're not saying, well, he must know something about Drake. He's a journalist who's investigated Drake.
Putting aside the journalism point, that's putting too fine of a point on it. I think what you're hearing, there have been rumors out there for a long time that Drake had potentially engaged in relations with young women. Drake.
And is your thought that Kendrick has special access to superior information than the average listener?
That he was making an allegation that he believed, that he knew to be true, that yes, that Kendrick, who lives in the same world, which is the highest possible echelon of hip hop and rap music, in that
runs
world,
in the same circles.
In those same circles, and in those same circles, Kendrick, have specialized knowledge the public at large doesn't have, and I know that he's not just a pedophile. He's a certified pedophile. And there's something to that. There's something like, I'm not just repeating what I've heard. He doesn't say that. He doesn't say, rumor has it, he doesn't say I've heard. He says you are a certified pedophile who likes him young.
Yes, listen, he did this to what the court called a catchy beat and a propulsive bass line. He did it in a banger. That's what the judge is saying, is that this is an absolute banger of a song. It was sung at the Super Bowl.
Did she use the word banger?
She doesn't, but that's what you're. When you say
when you just said that's what she said, that wasn't what she said.
Have I defamed the judge? I think that's what she meant. So, but he didn't go on 60 Minutes, do an interview with Morley Safer, and say, I run in the same circles as Drake.
You're setting a possibly high standard for defamation. It's got to be in a specific circumstance. Claims that are defamatory, that are false about somebody, accusing them of being a pedophile, when you are running in the same circles as him, I don't care where you say it. It can be in a diss track, it can be otherwise. To me, that rises to the level of something you're stating as a statement of fact and not an opinion.
So here's another thing she'll throw out about where we are in the forum. So if you're not buying that just because of the forum in which he said it renders it an opinion, she goes further than that. She says Drake had a diss track prior to the release of Not Like Us. That diss track was called Tailor Made Freestyle, in which Drake challenged Lamar to make the pedophilia assertions in his own response track. So he generated a song that had sort of the cadence of Heard You Like 'Em Young. Okay, say Drake, I heard you like 'em young. The judge says there's a similarity in the wording between that lyric and what Drake's lyric was in the prior song that suggests the line is a direct callback to Drake's lyrics. So he sort of dangled something in front of him, and this is part of the back and forth of a diss track, and likened it to comments on X, comments on YouTube, a freewheeling environment where people say all sorts of absurd things and no one takes them seriously. The average listener doesn't go on X to learn whether something's true. They're just in it for the fun.
Let me ask you a question. Hearing Drake use those honest question. Hearing Drake
Yep.
use those words, Kendrick use those words, knowing that Kendrick is, privy to things within the world that highest possible echelon of music, like those two guys are. Did it cause you to believe that he might have inside knowledge about what Drake's actually up to?
In some sense, I don't disagree with you that being in the same circles, they're represented by the same label, that he could have some superior knowledge. But as I'm listening, and I think the judge is saying, the average listener isn't saying, my goodness, we need to have an investigation and get authorities on this because this is a guy who is a danger to children. I don't think that's the response. I don't think that's your response. I think when he's at the Super Bowl, you're just bopping to a song.
Well, it wasn't the Super. I know he sang at the Super Bowl, but this was something that was released and became the most popular song in the entire year.
Did it make you nervous that you wanted to sort of alert the authorities and there should be a full-scale criminal investigation of Drake?
I don't think no.
You don't need to. You don't need that standard.
But it did make me think that those rumors that I've heard about Drake over the years
have some credibility.
Might be more true than I thought them to be.
It put a thumb on the scale for you. And look, I think this is.
I didn't think he would have said it unless Kendrick knows what these rumors, how much.
Well, I don't know how much he knows, but he has access to better knowledge than you and I.
And I hear Kendrick say that, and I'm like, I get it's a diss track, and I understand the point there that they're just trying to be as mean to each other as possible.
Man, have you heard some of those beef tracks?
Yes.
I mean, Tupac and Biggie, and
really awful. But you know what? Those guys are
Jay-Z and Nas.
Those are true. They're saying them as true, also. I think, aren't they?
Yes, but it's also a show of bravado. It's an art form unto itself, where the art is going as far as you can go. It's so it's not necessarily grounded in truth.
Okay.
It's he has this personality, he has this lameness, and I'm gonna sort of like just needle him as hard as possible.
Yeah.
And one of those things about him is this rumor that chases him around. So I know you're not sort of buying it. I do think the legal question is pretty close, but it's pretty full-throated opinion. It's basically saying, don't come back here with this. Sometimes you'll see a motion to dismiss, and they'll say, file an amended complaint. You didn't really sort of like find enough point on this. That's not what this is. The judge is saying this is not actionable opinion. See you later.
Yeah. All right, a couple comments and questions. Boba T asked, do you see any similarities between this lawsuit and the lawsuit involving Eminem and his mother, where she sued him for portraying her as a neglectful mother? So that's a really good question, and I think it really shows the dividing line between fact and opinion. His opinion is that she was a neglectful mother. Now, neglectful is a matter
truly a matter of opinion.
Truly a matter
like saying someone's racist or saying someone is
right.
These are they can hurt your reputation.
But
they are opinions.
But they are truly opinion. Now, had Eminem put specifics to that, saying she never came home, she was out for weeks at end, those get.
She beat me. CPS came to our house.
Those get into away from the opinion of her being neglectful, which neglectful is in the eye of the beholder, down to facts that would make up the neglect. Those would be statements of fact that I think would be actionable.
I think you're right, and no one is closer to the situation than Eminem, who grew up with his mother. So it's not a news report, but it's a guy talking about his home life as a young kid. He has special knowledge, and he is privy to things that the public doesn't know, but assumes he knows.
Right.
And so when you listen to him, if he says, my mom beat me when I was in second grade, and she didn't actually beat him, and her reputation is trashed, she could sue over it.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
So Carter C says, why did Drake file this in the first place if he was just going to dismiss it later? He did not dismiss it. He wanted this lawsuit to go forward. The judge said no dice, threw the lawsuit out because it was just opinion. So, and I do think there was a show of it. I don't know if Drake thought this would go the distance.
I wonder.
He just wants to lay down a marker because publicly he wants to say, this is not true about me. Regardless of what the judge says about opinion, I want the world to know.
So to wrap this up, do you think Drake made a mistake? Putting aside, Drake, I think his lawyers really thought this would survive a motion to dismiss and get on to the deeper stages of the case. Putting aside that he was wrong about that and it got dismissed, do you think that Drake regrets filing this lawsuit?
I think
he could have. He
it looked like weakness
in a different form.
Well, right? here's. I want to make this statement for Drake. A lot of people say that it's totally lame to bring it to courts because you had a rap beef. Like you now got the courts involved to write some opinion about defamation law.
Yeah.
That's lame, and I agree with that. What I will say is the ordinary back and forth. He's saying this was out of bounds, and it really trashed me in a way that I need to redress. If I just do a diss track back, I haven't capitulated to it, but I've addressed it in a way that keeps it kind of funny and back and forth. He needed to go to court, or he felt he needed to go to court and put down a marker.
It is remarkable. Drake was 2 years ago arguably, maybe after Taylor Swift, the biggest artist in the world.
I always thought there was a shadow of lameness haunting him,
There-
and a
there
lot of
certainly
people
was.
thought
There
that.
certainly was. And like,
And Kendrick basically nailed the coffin
and he
shut.
nailed the coffin shut. And Drake is, I know he's still huge to pop. I don't want to underestimate.
He's
He'll
massive.
fill up the Rose Bowl tomorrow, whatever.
9 figures of wealth. He's fine.
But nobody says Drake's my favorite artist anymore.
That's
Nobody.
kind of done.
Kids, my daughter's age, 16 years old. He is canceled. They have no interest in him at all.
Yeah, Kendrick got the Super Bowl. He swept the leg, and the song about calling him a pedophile was blared to everybody.
Swept the leg. Comparing it to the Karate Kid is definitely defamatory. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time on Behind the Bar.
See you next time.